Good evening and welcome to the Timberlane Regional School District Budget Committee. It is September 13th and Mr. Geary, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Gorman?
Here.
Mr. McCormick?
Here.
Mrs. Hammond?
Here.
Mr. Mascola?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
Here.
Mr. Boyle?
Here.
Mr. Belo?
I'm here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Others are marked, not present.
So we have Mr. Sherwood and Mr. Hughes, right, as absent. All right, Pledge of Allegiance. If you can all join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first thing on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from June 14th, and everybody should have a copy of those. I will admit, it was a little bit tough to go through these because we're reviewing minutes from a meeting that took place a while ago, so. If anybody has any questions, comments, changes, we'll take them now. If not, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So just for Tom over there.
Yep. Motion
Brian?
made by Mr. Boyle, seconded by Mr. Gurns.
Yep. Discussion? People need more time? All those in favor? Hold them up. Somebody's got to do the counting. Okay. All those opposed? Abstentions? Got it. Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just make sure that Tom puts in the minutes for tonight the attendance of Jeff.
Of course.
Okay, that's all. I'm doing the Kathy Belzer thing, you know, she's a pro, she just automatically does that kind of stuff.
Sure.
All right, correspondence. So anytime I get an email, I do my darndest to forward it off to you folks. That's what we agreed upon. So you should have received all of your correspondence that way, unless there's any others. Do we have a correspondence folder here, Jeff?
It's over there next to Alan.
That thin purple folder?
Yeah, that, are we reviewing this, or, yes?
All right. Alan?
Yes. You want it?
No, I want you to take a peek at it and pass it around throughout this meeting.
Certainly.
So the correspondence folder is going around. Delegations of individuals. Not seeing any here tonight. Admin report. So I was going to do a quick update on where we are. So I got my little list here. So in your packet, I've requested from Jeff that I'll start. You should have a sample page that looks like this. It's nothing more than a layout of what we've agreed upon in the past, of what our future reports will look like as a format. Pay no attention to the numbers, they're just dummy numbers in there, but that's what we agreed upon. So I'm telling you this, or I'm bringing it up because starting at our next budget meeting, when we start getting information, this is the page it'll look like. Kathy, go ahead.
So, I know that we agreed upon this. I did send out an example that Salem uses, and it's an actual Excel. It's exactly what we have here, but it's in Excel, and the format is a little bit more user-friendly. So they have columns for the function object down to the location, so you can actually sort for that. And it's a true Excel. So this looks like it was exported as a PDF, and then we'll receive it in Excel. I'm assuming that's how we've received it in the past. So converting a PDF to Excel, you're gonna see all the headers and footers. And it just makes it less user-friendly versus exporting it as Excel. So I sent it to everybody. I don't know if I included you, Alan. I apologize if I didn't. But I sent the example. It's exactly like this It has all the same columns. It's just in an Excel format.
So we spoke in the past about getting data in Excel.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you said one was accuracy of exporting it?
It comes out exactly as you see it, formats and everything.
Okay. And so the other concern was what?
fact-
Manipulating?
All manipulating form, but in fact, the school board received a report exported from Excel. And I'm sure Mr. Boyle can tell you, that was a report that I exported into Excel to make some adjustments to do some budget proposals for the upcoming year. Formatting was there, it's all off when you try and print it. It does not, there's no sums, there's no anything, it's just data. And the formatting is not very friendly. It's what you see. Headers and all.
So are you saying what Salem is able to export is something that we're not able to do? Because budgets are typically managed in Excel. So
A $70 million budget managed in Excel?
anything that, so this is just based on,
Well, let me back up. I guess I just want to be clear. Because Jeff seems a little bit surprised. So Salem is actually managing their budget with Excel, or are they exporting it from another program to Excel?
it is a PDF. I sent it to just about everybody here the other day. I don't know if you've looked at it. I sent the link and I sent a screenshot of what it looks like. And it is an Excel document. It is a PDF on their website because you can convert Excel to PDF with headers. And that's what they have. And if you look at it, it is an Excel document. Columns, cells, everything. And I don't think I was aware that we are not receiving the budgets in Excel. How are we supposed to make adjustments?
Mr. Gurns.
I'm just saying, I don't think we can question things and recommend changes. But we as a committee member do not change the budget.
Yes, we do. We generate the budget.
We do.
Requests
Let me
come
go
before
back
us, and then we
We
generate.
recommend numbers, but we don't do the actual implementation because there's a potential for ramifications in other departments and other things that are hidden for us. So we can say, for example, that, elementary school A has a total operating budget of X number of thousands of dollars, and we see that it's, 10% higher than the previous year, and we say we should recommend it to be 5% less or 5% higher. We make that recommendation, but actually implementing it isn't done by any committee member, it's done by administration. We can make a recommendation and vote on it, and they will mark it up and make the change at that point.
Yeah, hold on. Let's make sure we're not getting too far. Hold on. Peter, you had something?
Yes. In spring, we spent a good amount of time at two different meetings, coming up as a group with what we wanted to see. And we voted on it. And actually, I think, Mrs. Gorman was actually kind of, the lead, not the leader, but, the impetus for us, examining these things and making changes. We came to a consensus on what we wanted to see. We voted on it. Jeff was able to do it, to meet it. I don't see the point in talking about this at every meeting, anytime somebody comes up with something that may be a little better or different. I'd like to make a motion, if I have to make a motion, that we just move on and continue on the path that we all voted on in spring.
Okay, hold on. Can you just summarize why you think changing it would be better?
Did anybody look at the email I sent?
Yeah, I did,
Okay,
but
so you
just
saw
summarize
the
it.
format, because it actually reads easier across, because each row is exactly what that cost is, and it has the function, the object, down to the location, each in separate cells. So if you wanted to put a filter on the top and sort for Sandown Central, like location 11, I can pull up the entire Sandown Central budget and see what goes into that. So it's much easier to understand where the costs are going. It's not, it's a little bit easier than, it wouldn't have the footer. It would just have the information, I can pull it up and tell you the headers, but it's an Excel spreadsheet. It's a little bit more user-friendly, and I thought we were receiving this in Excel because we have received it in the past in Excel, and last time we had a conversation about this, everybody had said you were still staying along that path, that we would be receiving it in Excel. So it made sense to make it a more user-friendly Excel document to me. So,
Go ahead, Brian.
Excuse my ignorance on this stuff, but these documents, Jeff, that you generate, obviously come off the Timberlane system. And it's been obviously the Timberlane system since you've held that position. So, and I think, obviously, you've been reviewing versions, I guess, of these documents. So, is what Kathy's asking, is that possible, feasible even to do off your?
I have no idea what the
System.
report looks like. It doesn't
I
sound like.
actually, I apologize, I did not send it to you. I had sent it because in the email it said it was everything that we agreed to. It's just that the format is an Excel format, and it splits it out a little bit easier for
right,
us
so-
as a budget committee. And it actually has the administration request, and it has a column for the school board recommendation and the budget committee recommendation.
So here's what I'm gonna do. It's not fair to administration to give an answer that they know nothing about. So I'm gonna say there should be no action on this at this point right here. Because we can't adequately tell Jeff, even if we wanted to go do it, he's not sure if he could produce the same look and feel of what you're telling me that you saw at a different district.
I just forwarded it to him.
I did too, so
Now you have it twice.
now you have.
Phenomenal.
And I apologize, I just assume that this is something every system can do. Again, I've asked for us
But listen,
to,
not all is lost. We're gonna go through multiple presentations, and now that Jeff has seen it, he can go digest it, I'll say after this meeting. And if we want it, maybe at the next meeting, we can say, hey, Jeff, now that you looked at it, get back to us, and maybe he can even bring us a sample of, if he can produce it. So, sound fair to everybody? I'm gonna kind of table it and give Jeff some time. So let me just keep on going down. Item 7, Phil, that's where we are?
Thank you.
Okay. So one was the format, which I've gone through. The next one is the schedule of presenters. So this is the one that we all agreed to in the past. And Jeff, we are on track with the schedule? Is anybody not thinking
Well-
that they're going to be able to make this?
I am not certain that the packet is going to have adequate time for review at this time.
Okay.
I thought we had the budget committee on there.
We did. Yeah, actually, I noticed that was been taken out.
Is that right here?
Yes.
Okay.
So, when will you know about the PAC, or you're telling us right now PAC will not be?
I
You
am
just don't know?
certainly not in the next week to post.
Okay. Because, again, the way we're going to do all these is to get the information 1 week in advance.
Correct.
So, we'd have to get the information next week if we're going to go get the PAC, but you're not sure.
I'm not sure.
All right. Then after that, we're gonna get the school board. School board's got stuff for us?
Well, it's for everybody. Next week, an hour before our meeting, is going to be a strategic plan forum that we've been working on a strategic plan for over a year now. And there's been multiple occasions where there's been public input. We have a document that's been approved in draft format by the school board, but we wanted to open up one last time to have so we can hear from the public. So it'll be an hour before our meeting next Thursday night. Well, actually, it's going to be an hour and a half before meeting, 6 o'clock. So everyone is welcome to attend and give us any input. Like I said, there's really been a lot of work, and a lot of people have put a lot of effort into this document, and hopefully this will be the document for Timberlane for the next 5 years. And when the school board formally adopts that, then there's another part of it that's going to be the facilities, which I think will start coming in even during the budget season this year. You know, what I envisioned, and we touched on it briefly at a facilities meeting. Tom was there the other day that Timberlane has a quarterly facilities meeting. But for those, I think we have approximately 2 years left in our bond. And I think it would be wise for the district to come up with a capital improvement plan, to have that fully ready to adopt a new capital improvements, whether, you know, there's a lot of things that in our district that have been, for lack of funding, let's say, been put off for the last 5 or 10 years as our resources have been, say, put elsewhere. So now, what I see happening, and obviously it's not just me, you know, what should happen with voter input, you should see some major improvements done, probably not this year coming up, this ballot year, but for the following year. And there's all kinds of things going on. You hear people talk about the track, a STEM wing at the high school. There's a lot of things that will have to be fully discussed and worked out, that these are major capital things that should be done outside of your operating budget. So that is not clearly spelled out in our strategic plan. That's just it's more of a concept. And then it's going to be more of the facilities portion will live on from the actual strategic plan portion.
What we'll see in 2 weeks.
No, I think you were just doing the report for the committees just now from the school board perspective. I think what Michael was trying to say is your budget,
Do you
the
have
school
your
board
budget,
budget
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Thank you.
School board budget.
I enjoyed it nonetheless.
I did too.
Well, we don't have any school board budget. No, I'm sorry. No, I don't have a school board budget tonight.
Oh, that's enough.
No, not
It's for
tonight.
For next meeting.
Let me start over.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. The way I was reading this.
Nope. So I was going through and I'm saying we have a schedule of presenters. It's in your packet.
Okay.
And so at our next meeting on September 27th, we have the PAC, but Jeff has just informed us that we may not have the PAC information. So the other item that was on our list for September 27th is the school
Oh, I'm
board.
sorry. You're talking about the small little
Yes.
budget.
Or
Yeah.
if it makes you
Yeah.
feel any better, the
Yeah,
one next to
you
it
could
is ours.
probably
and
take
it's
away
way
the last
smaller.
year's and just put them again. That shouldn't really take. Yes, you mean there's really not much to that
And
school
we're doing
board.
BudCom as well. Oh, it's missing from there. It's so small, Brian, you don't even see the print.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, because you're right. That's nice that actually has a slot put in there.
Yeah.
Because you can just take the one and move it right over from last year. That's great.
Okay. Go ahead.
I do have a quick question about the school board budget. Am I correct in saying that the student activities, when they come here and they want to go on a trip, does that come out of the school board budget? I know that there was a line that was not funded well enough, and I just want to make sure that's funded appropriately this
What
year.
I
And I thought the school board was looking for the money within your budget, so.
From what I understand, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong here, that there is a budget, more of a activities fund budget in the high school. And what's happened is that only has so much money in it.
Mm-hmm.
And once that gets depleted, then students will come in front of the school board and say, hey, can we go on this trip? I, for one, as a member of the school board, I'd like to see it all go right back to each individual building. I think
Okay,
once the administrators do their thing, I really think it's crazy for the
All
school
right,
board to
let me
weigh
just-
in on these
Let me
things.
just cut in before I go there. I don't want to go too far down this path because it's really not
Sure.
Yeah.
Part of this.
Just one comment on what Brian said.
course,
He's
one more.
absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, but,
Have you ever known Brian to not be correct?
but,
I'm leaving now. It won't get any better.
but,
Pass that one.
but what I wanted to mention is 2 years ago,
Yes.
the school board basically tried to get out of the business of funding things like that, and made the recommendation that the high school increase the amount of funds they asked for that. When it came to the budget committee killed it and went back to the old number. That's why the school board is still in that business.
I see.
Okay, it may not have been explained properly. I'm not trying to indict
Yeah.
the budget committee, for goodness sake.
Okay.
But there was like an attempt to do that got volleyed back.
Thank you for that
Okay,
insight.
thank you.
We'll take care of that this year then.
All right, so moving along under my update, so you've got the schedule, we've got the format. I just want everybody to be aware that all of our information for these meetings, if you go to our BudCom website, it lists all of our meetings. Just click on the link next to the date, and in there, anything that's relevant for that meeting, that's where Jeff will be putting this information. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. You don't have to go through all the different folders, just one spot. Is that correct, Jeff? Correct. Here we go. And again, so hopefully we're gonna try and get all that information out in there a week before. That's our goal. Minimum
Would be
week.
the packet that you see here tonight, for example.
So I don't know if anybody saw, but so the packet that was here, because some people said, do I have to print it? No, you don't have to print it. It's just there for you to quickly review. You should be able to see the agenda, the meeting minutes from the last meeting, and any type of financials or presentations that we're going to be seeing go there first. Okay. Just trying to line up how we're going to be doing some of this stuff.
Martha, do we have a backup if the PAC can't happen the 27th? Like, where would we move that?
Great question.
Or could we swap it?
That's a great one. Jeff? So maybe, you may not have the answer right now, but if there's another one of these blocks that could be ready on the 27th, and that would give the PAC/Tony more time, I don't know.
I don't see that as possible. I can pick up the phone tomorrow morning and say, let's accelerate your budget preparation schedule a week.
I don't know, you don't know, but just throw it out there.
Yeah.
Say, if we're gonna have a vacancy, do a swap. So, Kathy?
Okay, so my expectation would be that everybody has been provided this schedule, and I do understand early on, it's really difficult just coming back to get the budgets ready. Are there any other potential budgets? Because everybody knows when they're supposed to be presenting. Not, are they saying they're not going to be prepared? Because I think that's what we should be talking about and trying to figure out. When are we going to be able to see these budgets, and who, can we switch out someone for one department for another department? Typically, they would be coming back to you already. They've had this for months.
I think everyone else is in line
Okay, perfect, thank you.
at this time.
And just, the other part I was gonna tell you, the document, and I think the three of you worked on, Kathy, Todd, and Peter, was the budget process. So that is up on SharePoint. So hopefully our administrators can use this as a guide. You'll make this aware, this document?
Yes.
You put under SharePoint under
Sir.
docs, misc info, up there, so it's up there. And that's what I had for the updates right now. So you can let us know as soon as you can about the 27th, about whether it's going to take place with the PAC, and if not, a potential swap. Okay?
Completely off topic, Wi-Fi access as guest, do we,
I do not have.
could we have that just for the next
Sure.
meeting? Great, thank you.
I think the school board has them on the folders.
You're just saying you want to get on the Wi-Fi?
I do, just in general.
I know, I'm
I have everything in the cloud with my comments, and now I can't access it, so.
Feel free to use my phone if you want.
Okay, I'm gonna try mine, actually, but.
It's open.
Thank you.
Okay. And the only other part I'm going to mention, I've mentioned it in the past, and I've already spoken to you, but I just want to let the board know. So I just want to make sure that we try and get the meeting minutes out in a reasonable time. I mean, they have to be available in 5 days anyways, but so stick them up. And what I want to do is, there is a folder on our SharePoint called meeting minutes. And currently, we only put the approved meeting minutes. What I want to do, Jeff, is I want to put the draft meeting minutes in that same exact spot. Of course, you can watermark them to say draft, but that way, anybody in the world, this committee or anybody outside, goes to one spot, and they, are you looking at it right now?
They're there. You win?
No, I'm saying, yes,
No. There's a whole folder there, so.
yeah. And so I want to put, every time meeting minutes are produced,
Yeah.
the draft ones, just keep plugging them in there.
Yep. And
Okay.
that's, we have a folder for that right now. We have to be
Okay.
logged in, but there's a folder.
Excellent. All right.
One question on the folder. When we start getting, we'll be getting the proposals, budget requests from the various departments a week ahead. Will those be able to be put in that folder as well?
Those would be going in the agenda, like
Like
just
if-
as this was posted.
Yeah, like tonight, like the agenda packet.
Yeah, but will they be available for us to see a week early so we
Yes.
can review it?
Yep.
In that folder?
No, they'd be in the meeting folder.
Right, so we have to come here to get them ahead of time?
No, and not that meeting folder, the meeting folder for.
SharePoint.
On SharePoint.
Oh,
I can share it before you leave.
Hold on, Kathy, 1 second. And the other part that is on SharePoint is a fully updated object listing, object function. It's all under documents, miscellaneous info. So all this stuff, the schedule, the coding, the procedure is up there.
So our agenda packets are typically a PDF, so the
Yes.
budgets will be in Excel, correct? Posted separately in Excel.
How would you do that one there, Jeff?
Probably not there. I could try, but we haven't even discussed what the format's gonna look like yet. I cannot produce like Salem produces.
No, forget Salem for right now.
Okay,
So let's just say, that we're gonna go with these budgets like next week, in 2 weeks with the PAC. Could you put the PAC budget in that agenda spot in Excel?
I don't know.
You don't.
I don't know if I can put both, but if I can, I'll try.
So you can't put more than one file in there?
I don't wanna commit.
You can.
I hope so. I don't know.
It's SharePoint. You can put anything you want
So
in the
let's
folder.
try for this, though. Let's try for this. You may not know. So if we can, put the PDF packet,
Yep.
and obviously it'll have the financials in PDF format. And then if we can add a second file, financials in the Excel, with the format that we've already previously agreed upon. Let's just take baby steps here.
I'm gonna try it now and see if I can just post something out
Okay.
there.
The folders already have multiple documents in them.
So that one spot is currently just one, but Jeff will try if he can put multiple files in there.
Might be a folder setting. I get the request. I understand the request.
Okay.
If I just wanted to confirm that Jeff's concerns were, that he wasn't sure that we would necessarily have the technical ability to put those files on, and not so much, for lack of a better word, needed a green light from someone to put it on the site?
Nope.
Okay, it was a technical concern that you had?
It's a technical concern.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It's uploading a document.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hold
I
on.
wanted to make sure it was a technical, not a
I'll
bureaucratic
tell you
thing
what,
that was a
if you
concern.
figure it out, let me know, and then we'll share it with the board.
Very well.
Good enough, so we don't have to beat it up right now.
Cool.
All right, so that's going to wrap up me for number 7. Mr. Boyle, now we're going to move to number 8. You can
Ditto.
You can say ditto, or
what I said before.
Yeah, well,
is there anything new you want to shed?
I can't think of anything new. I think there's going to be,
Okay.
well, we'll be reaching out to different community members. there's this document, well, there's multiple parts of this document. Next Thursday, Dr. Wilson's going to run us through the strategic plan, and she's done a pretty good job of, I think it's a good document, and there's a lot of work behind it. So I encourage anyone who wants to, members of the public, come down and give us their input.
This will be on the 20th?
This will be next Thursday night.
Yep.
Yep.
When
It's
was
at 6 o'clock right here.
When was the last time, to your knowledge, or maybe someone else here might know, that the district had a strategic plan?
Oh, that's a fair question. I think it was maybe 5 years ago, maybe?
Yeah. It was a five, no,
It was older than that.
it's, it was done, I believe, 7 years ago, and it's a 5-year, it was a 5-year plan, so it's kind of overdue by about 2 years.
And I do believe, Phil, that the education portion of it, if you will, I think the bulk of that already happens.
Yeah.
I think it just got more formalized. That my own personal interest was more from what happens after you lay the foundation of this thing, and now you start the groundwork to see where we go over the next 5 years in terms of facilities. I think you've got a group with the educational portion, which I think already the bulk of it already happens. I think it's already in the works. The people are here doing their thing, and I've been on the board now. This is probably 18 months, but there's a process, the CIP process, and you go to these meetings, and people have needs, and they shuffle. Okay, we thought we could do this next year, and then all of a sudden next year happens, and the money's not there, so we're going to put that off a year. Well, everything does get down to money, and I think makes sense to me anyway. As you pay off one large debt, you now get ready to make your investment in your district. So there'll be a group. There's going to be quite a few people involved in that thing, whether people work here and outside help and volunteers, and then I think we talked briefly the other day. I think we're going to have to put aside some money for some outside consulting. If there's anything that really facilities designed, you're going to need some professional help, to come up with, so anyhow.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry I didn't have any charts for you or anything, but that's the.
you want to, just
that's
give-
the Reader's Digest for just.
Would you just want to give a plug to the community about the school board vacancy?
The school board vacancy, there was a school board vacancy, Plastow. Dan Guide resigned, and so obviously it's for a Plastow resident, and you had to get in touch with Mrs. Sherman, school board chair, and she's also a Plastow rep. So the way that works is anyone in Plastow can apply, and then it'll be between Sue Sherman and Sarah that will make that decision.
I win. How long?
I think Sue opened it up till the 17th.
And how much of a term did Dan have left, if you recall? off the top
It's
of
till
your
the next election.
Yeah, it's the
For
election,
the
so
next
much.
election.
head? Okay, yeah.
Then they have to rerun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So. look
I think she's already put it out there, and so for the Plastow.
We just know that with the Nelson ratings, there's so many people watching here, we won't get that message.
That's true. Good point.
Okay. All right, are you done with your school board? Excellent.
I'm done.
Excellent.
And
Moving on.
anyone has any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me. I'll be happy to.
Budget committee, anybody there? The only part I'm going to give you is back in July, Kathy had informed us the basic law of budgeting from NHMA. Am I taking the wind out of your sail?
It was yesterday, the full day.
No, I'm not there.
Oh,
I'm talking
okay.
about the one that in July, some of the members of this board, Kathy went, Dave went, Peter went, I went, and John Hughes went. It was a great training. Not only was the cost a good bargain, right there, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
It was a great 2 or 3 hours, so I would encourage if it comes by, I'd go again in a heartbeat. And then I did look at my notes that you were going to update us about the full day one in
Yeah.
September. And
Let me
when,
update you.
when-
It was yesterday, and I'm sure everybody that went enjoyed it. I apologize. Work's been crazy, and I did go online today because I said it's mid-September. I should probably check. And yes, it was yesterday. I am going to find out. They usually have one in southern New Hampshire, and then they'll have one up towards Tilton. So I want to just see if that's a possibility. I wouldn't have been able to make yesterday.
Okay.
But I can see if there's one, if people are willing to take that drive. It's definitely worth going to for the full day.
I'll tell you what, get the information, please. Send it over this way, and then I'll or just redistribute out to the board.
I do think I did send it. I mean, I knew it, I sent it to you a while
Yeah.
back, but I forgot to remind you and forgot to even check.
Yep, I didn't notice it until it was too late. But thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may. You attended, Mr. Hughes. Was there anybody else?
So there's Peter Belo,
Mr. Belo? Yep.
Dave Gurns,
Okay.
Kathy was there, myself, John Hughes
Got it. Thank you.
from NHMA. All right, so I'm going to move forward to unfinished business. And this is where Jeff's going to give us a 1 year's recap, right?
Yes. So in front of you, you have a report, a budget TRSD, different in format from the one that you'll be looking at. And we also have a report for July and August of the current year. So this is a little bit different. It offers a little bit more comparative data, which I hope you'll find useful. We did okay as a district. I think that overall, we ended up, so the two warrant items were the budget that year and the capital reserve for 250,000. Ended up making a capital reserve contribution of much less than that, I believe 790, and that is a result of what was left in our capital budget available for allocation. The school board approved that contribution, so that resulted in some surplus going, some from the 250,000 that we had included in the budget originally.
Jeff, can you pause 1 second?
Sure.
So while you have these documents in front of you, because I know that I had this question and I got the question from somebody else, can you just clarify the titles?
Sure.
I spoke to you a little bit about this. So if you look at the first document, the one that says budget, you'll see along the titles, it'll say 2018 budget with roll forward. Everybody see that on your paper? So I'm just asking Jeff to give a clarification of what with roll forward.
What that means. Okay, that's a fair question. So last year, we had a significantly, not necessarily unreasonably, exaggerated issue involving what we post for a budget when we're comparing budget to budget and when we're looking at the budget as voted. So when we look at a budget as it's freestanding, as it's voted by the voters, it is the budget that is voted. And when comparing budget to actual, we look at the budget with the roll forward, with the effect of the previous year's encumbrances that roll forward. So we're doing the spending in the subsequent year. If we have a project for, what are these last, a parking lot for $100,000, our budget in the year in which we're doing the work is, let's say, $500,000. We encumbered $100,000 from the previous year. So that $100,000 gets added to the budget in the following year, because it wasn't used in the previous year, in order that we are still using that same account, in order that that frees up the budget to be spent, that current year budget, the 500, to be spent on what we budgeted for. So in other words, if we have 500 originally in a budget, we roll forward 100,000, when we do that work for 100,000, it still comes out of that site's account. And therefore that 100,000 from the previous year of expense would eat up the current year, the present year's of budget. We roll forward that 100,000 in the budget from the previous year as an encumbrance to the current year, so we have the money to spend and not impact the current year's budget and anticipated spend. So when we're comparing budget to actual, the only real way to do that is to compare budget, including the encumbrance, to the actual spend.
So roll forward is the incumbents.
Correct, with encumbrance, and
Okay.
there may be some money that was added for a different project or
actual
anything like
budget,
that. But
okay.
typically, that's what that's going to be for. Your voted is still your voted, right?
Right.
What the voters went and voted at the polls is still the
But
voted
this is money
budget
from the previous budget that's been rolled into this line item.
that's been rolled into that line item.
Let me back up. That's the first column.
That is should be every column that you see relative to a comparison of a budget to the year's actual spend.
Kathy had a question.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So obviously, roll forward is the encumbered funds.
Correct.
So that's the more appropriate word to say. And actual, is that the voted? So they voted 15.5 approximately, and then you encumbered 572,000 approximately? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Tell you what, let's just use that first line.
Yes.
Right? Let's use the first line, Jeff, and go with your Kathy's question. All right, so you're looking at like the salary for teachers, right? Mm-hmm. So we encumbered 16.1 million.
Let's assume in this case there was no encumbrance that impacted that line.
Okay.
The voters voted 16,146.
No, they didn't though.
No, they didn't.
They voted 15.5.
They did.
Right? That's the 2,000
Correct.
actual.
In that
This
case-
is what we're trying to.
Actual spend.
What is the voted amount?
It's not on here. It's the roll forward minus the encumbrance.
All right, so we need the voted amount with the encumbrance. did
Included
you
in the roll
encumber?
forward.
Okay, so what is that? What is the voted versus the encumbrance is what we're asking. That 16,146 is meaningless to us if we don't know what is voted and
Okay.
what's encumbered.
How would you like this then?
So let's go through this. David, go ahead.
I just have a question. The voters did not vote on a line item. They
No.
voted-
We understand that.
No, I'm trying to make a point. The bottom line we should be looking at is encumbrances versus voted amounts would be on the last item, the grand total.
Let me back up. I'll take it back. Let's not look at the line for, I don't care what line it is. I don't care if it's the very last line. We're just trying to understand what is the difference between the columns. I don't care if the line is pencils, salaries.
Right.
So let me take back salary teachers, the bottom line. Can you please describe to this board the columns and what the differences mean? So please do not look at the first account number. Look at the bottom line somewhere.
What are the columns? Have a look at the bottom line.
These ones here. So, again, and I'm speaking on behalf of the board because I want to make sure that everybody
Understands?
understands the information.
You going to page 17 now, is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Hey, what are you doing? Mike, going to page, what do you, the grand total, what are you doing?
If I want to go to page, if I go to the
17?
very end,
So what are you doing?
What page is that? What page are we looking at?
Going to 17?
17.
Yeah.
On my way to 17.
great. So, David, yes, I agree with you. The voters aren't voting on individual accounts, and so,
They voted on a budget that was built by the budget committee,
no, I understand. So let's just, I want to
Page,
get,
because we don't know how it gets broken up. That's not our call.
I want,
We
right now,
built it as a budget
No,
committee.
I get that.
ladies and
But
gentlemen.
it gets shifted around where they need to get it done.
Hold on.
That's what happens.
I just want to get clarification so we understand what the titles of the columns represent.
Yes.
So
Sure.
Jeff, if we're all on page 17,
Yes.
the very first one, 2018 budget with roll forward. So you're saying that is the budget with encumbrances?
Correct.
Okay, so everybody sees that 72 point, 72.
113,739.
Everybody good there? You following along? Todd, you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So Jeff, take it away. The next one says 2018 actual unaudited.
So that's the
Actual spent.
actual spend. If it would be more useful for me to have 2018, as I have expended in the rest, expend unaudited, if that would be helpful. I'd like to make that change now, so whatever we're looking at for columns in the future,
I would just put down, expend, you don't even need audited or unaudited.
Seems inherent.
So you're just saying, just call it 2000 actually spent.
Yeah.
It's just what you're gonna call it.
all right, I'll do that. And then if audit has a change to those numbers, I'm going to hear about the fact that what I presented as a 2018 actual expend is not what showed up in the annual report, and that and it'll be all kinds of crazy accusations, which I'm sure you can appreciate, which is why I like to just mark if it's unaudited, that it's unaudited.
But maybe the question about spend, was that more for people? If we just keep 2018 actual unaudited spend?
Yes.
Expended, yeah,
Expended.
it's expended.
To be
Expended.
consistent with the rest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Perfect.
great.
So you're gonna add the word expended, just helps to clarify, but you wanna keep the word
Spent.
unaudited in there so people know it's an unaudited number. Did you have another?
I guess my concern is when we go to build a budget, that is, we start from zero and we build. And then, yes, I agree, the voter votes on the bottom line, but a budget does exist because we generate one. We need to know what was the prior approved amount that the budget committee put forward for that line item without the encumbrance, because we base our build on that number and every number that was in the actual budget, not what is encumbered, because that's from the prior year. That doesn't even exist for us, even though we're spending it this year. It was because we had an obligation last year, and we're paying it out this year. So we need to know what the actual budget, the budget committee built, and that was approved, and this year is a default, so, and they did build a default budget. That's what we need to know,
Well,
without the encumbrance.
I think it's a little different. I think that, what, wasn't the budget 71.5? Is that the default plus the 250? Is that what it was?
In the current year?
Yes.
Yeah, it's back here, isn't it?
That's what I think, Kathy, we want to build off of, right? What,
I agree.
he is now,
71.8,
the 7.8 includes the 250, something like that. or
72,
whatever.
120, let's say, yeah.
But I think this first column, what Kathy's referring to, in terms of building it, I would think you would start at the budget that got approved, because you've already, now, we're in school now, you've already been spread, salaries, everything is pretty much where you want it. You know how to spread that money to operate Timberlane.
Sure, I don't know that's the issue. If you look at the bigger budget report that we'd be using during the budget season, my intent would be that we would have a 19 request, or a 20 request. The next column would be you can see here it says 18 voted. Well, now it's going to say 19 voted, which would, when we're looking at these budgets to put into play, that's exactly where that would be, right? We have no
Right,
spend to compare it to.
No, you have no, I guess, but I think when Kathy's talking about building a budget from this point on, which is what this committee is tasked to do, if you will, I would think you're gonna take what we already knew the number, you know what the vote is, and then you went backwards and spread it, salaries, special ed,
Sure.
transportation. That, I would think, is your basis. That's what you're building off of. That's what we're operating on this year.
And so in the report that we're looking at here, we're looking at the 18 budget to 18 actual. When we're looking at the budget, that's exactly what we would be doing, right? We would be looking at a 19 or a 20 request. This would be, the next column would be the 19 voted, the current year voted, default, whatever that would be.
Yep.
And we'd see a difference, and then we'd see 18 budget, 18 expended. The question is, when we're looking at the current year budget, Brian, we can only look at it, so we look at it as voted, or as voted, right, on a bottom line basis, let's just say. When we look at the 19 budget, we look at it as voted. What do we do with the prior years, though? What do we do with the 18 budget and the 18 actual? Because I think your point is, hey, I don't want to see the 18 budget with roll forward when we compare 18 budget to 18 spend. I want to see the 18 budget as voted.
Yes, because encumbrances don't impact, we should not be considering what was encumbered, because that was not voted on. That is not what was requested. That is something that we encumbered because we had an obligation. So that is actually money that was spent last year that we're paying this year. It's not a part of this year's budget per se that was built by whomever. The school board does the default budget, we build the the proposed operational budget.
So can I make a suggestion? First of all, I think I'm interested in that number, actually. But I think it's more of a real estate issue, right? There's not enough room on here to have them both separated out. There's just not. I mean, I want to see all this, and I want to see it going back to 2016. I also want to know what the encumbered is versus the voted, but you just can't fit all that on there unless you minimize it all and make it really small, like the words on the, at the school board meeting the other night.
Mixed up?
I'm
We're,
on.
let me back up.
Yeah.
We're currently looking at two documents. We agreed on this legal size paper with all these columns. Yet, we're talking about columns on this other report. Should we not be worried about these columns? Because we've previously requested,
This is what we're gonna be getting, right?
this is the format of the data of how we're gonna get it.
Except it'll be moved up a year, right? So this would say 20 requested,
Yeah.
that'll be the new request.
I understand.
19 voted.
So, I just want to see if I can like shorten this conversation by saying, do we really need to go through all the stuff that had like roll forward? No. We've been discussing the data and the columns and the formatting of what we wanted. Portrait, landscape, legal size paper, you name it. We've done it. So you're going to put the data on that.
Correct.
With no roll forward.
With no it's encumbered.
So
Whichever one.
what I'm trying to do is saying, let's not worry about this stuff here. I mean, so Jeff is going to give us a summary of the year on this stuff here. We're going to operate going forward
It's a minutia.
using this. Does that make sense to everybody?
I'm on the same page, my brother.
You're on the
Works.
same page? Kathy, you
That
good?
works.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that this number is not going to be the number that's going into this document when we look at it.
Correct.
The 16,000 is not going to be, because that has encumbered funds, that's what I'm asking.
Agreed.
Okay.
Listen, it only helps the district out, all right? You're gonna be looking at spend that's greater than the lines we're budgeted for. As soon as that report's out there, any line that's over budget, I'm gonna hear about, Dad's gonna hear about, DRA's gonna hear about, they've overspent the line, all this stuff, because it's there in a report.
Because it's not showing the encumbered
Because
funds.
it's not showing the encumbered. For
But
analytical
we're gonna
purposes,
have
I
to-
Yeah,
don't,
but you can explain that.
How
Because
about,
that is funds that was promised last year. So we
Kathy,
understand
can you hold on one
that.
second? Let me just back up. Didn't we discuss at a previous meeting about how many account lines have encumbered funds?
Yes, we
It
did,
was a
that's right.
handful.
Didn't you say it was like a handful?
how about a separate report?
But just bear with me. So we can have 1,000 lines through all these different accounts. We're only talking about a dozen lines that are encumbered.
What is the encumbrance amount? What's it total to?
No, hold on. Let me back up. So, to Kathy's question or point is, if we only have the budgeted, not the encumbered, and you're saying, but it may look like we're overspent, that's about a dozen lines that may look like that. I'm willing to say, let's work with those dozen lines. That's not a lot.
for analytical purposes, the budget with roll forward to actual spend analytically is probably the best tool to look at it from actual spend and tying it to a budget. I'm not going to argue with the committee. However you want it, I can do it.
So, Kimmy, just give me give me your opinion. Alan, I'll start.
Oh, no,
going
is
around
it
there.
possible just to have a separate?
No,
piece
no,
of-
let's not
No,
reformat this.
if we
I'd
know
like to hear it,
the encumbrances, we only have 12 of them or 10, what the number
Sure.
is. Can we just have a list of those and say, so that's why this line item's over budget because it's encumbered?
Is that what you're gonna
Instead of
say, Phil?
getting
Call it
rid of a line
encumbrance
item here.
report. There we go. You're talking about a dozen accounts, right? It's not 1,200.
Like, here it is in this format, here's the encumbrance account.
There we go.
Or report, boom, then you can see.
That would make it simple. All right, so here's what I want to do. We're sticking with this. We haven't changed it. If we need, Jeff can give us an encumbrance report to show us whatever those accounts are,
We can
where
match
the
it up
spend may
and we
look greater than the budget, and then we'll just go forward with the rest of the report. You don't have another one, do you?
I do.
course she does.
Sorry. Of course I do. So I'm just, and this is the format, but we also said there would be we need to put in our recommendation, and we need a school board recommendation. So where is that going? Because we're not going back and forth, draft 1, draft 2, draft 3.
Let me just back up real
It-
quick. I want to stay on focus. What we're trying to get right now is Jeff's report
Okay, sorry.
of 17-18.
I'll bring it up
So-
later.
I want to let Jeff give us that report of how did 17-18 go.
Here you go.
I do have a question on that, though, on this report.
Yeah, we'll come back to it,
We'll
but
come back to it.
right now, according to the agenda, you're supposed to be talking about 17-18 actual versus budget. Tell us how phenomenal the year was.
Now I've lost my report, because we've been doing other things. Here we are.
This is yours, David. I'm not trying to steal it. Yeah, so while Jeff is looking at that, I think what we're doing, we were just getting off track because we're getting a different report with different titles. We're sticking to what we had.
So the report that's captioned budget-TRSD, which is the regular letter-sized paper, broken out largely by functions. You can see 11, regular education, function 1100. On page 2, you'll see special education, 1200. You'll see that one of the areas that we had some needs in the year and conserved on the other end in the regular education was in our special education 1200 function. In terms of what the needs of the district were compared to what we were able to reasonably estimate, you'll see some lines were over. Tuition being one of them, which is 564, almost halfway down on page 2. We were able to find some savings in the 1100 account, shift some resources there to meet and satisfy those needs. When we go down, you'll look at student activities, 1410. Relatively reserved about 24,000 surplus in that. In athletics, approximately 89,000, which attribute mostly to some savings from game expenses. Number of overall all-around savings. Summer school 1430, not a lot of activity. Our 1600 alternative continuing education, about 28,000 favorable, having a little bit to do with demand, which means we don't get the revenue. 2112 attendance, that's a function area that is not having a lot of activity, but is there for historical purposes. Guidance 2122, we were pretty on that line, on that function. Page 6, which is health services, 2134. We had a bit of a cost savings there, but it probably wasn't the best form of cost savings. We did have some savings resulting from some salaries. Go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I missed it all.
I have no.
Missing some of these sheets.
Yeah, I was
Even
gonna
numbered
say,
sheets.
there's,
Oh, my
there's
gosh.
missing
That's all right.
pages.
That's why this is going
I
so
have it
well,
all.
because we're missing every other sheet.
I'm going, hey, wait a
It's on a
minute.
roll. This is
Went
awesome.
from 1200, I look over, I'm at 1400 function.
like,
I'm saying,
That
what the
is
heck is
why.
going on?
318 and 17.
PDF is,
And we saved a bunch of
But
stationery.
we'll take your word for it, Jeff, we're good.
so that's why,
I will
that's why
print them.
printing's down.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, because I only have half the ink.
Let me back up. Before he prints them, do you want to listen to him? Do you want to follow through and we'll just go for the summary?
Yeah, let's
Let
go
him
to
do
the
it.
summer. I'm working with it.
He's good.
Before you print.
We trust him. So.
So I will share with you that my very dedicated staff, who may be watching right now, returned the packet relatively quickly,
Very good.
astoundingly quickly,
In half the amount of time.
in half the amount of time. And I should have known when page 2 was missing from the minutes. That would be why. So thankfully, everything is out there online for the meeting. So.
Tree.
So I'll reference the even pages accordingly. Our function 1430, $7,000 surplus, not a huge budget, not a huge surplus. Alternative continuing education, that's an even page item. We did have some savings there, mostly due to demand. Now I'm back on page 5, which I think everyone has attendance.
Yep.
And 2112, that is a function that you can see that we've had budget that has, it will be dropping off in years to come. The guidance function 2122, we did overall in that function, and that's typically how we look at these things. We're pretty close, 1.2 million spent, a little over 7,000 unspent in those lines. So the next one, which is the top of 2134, You can see the very first line on 2134 nurse salaries. The entire function had approximately, entire health services function had approximately 100,000 remaining, but that was due to us having some nursing staffing issues.
Didn't we
some
outsource
staff-
or something at the time or something?
Yeah, we did outsource it. It wasn't a great year, and we had some additional regulatory issues that came up. And, quite frankly, it's a good job market. I'll just put it out there. So school nursing is not, it's a tough thing to fill sometimes. And if you get someone who's great, they're around forever and they do a great job. Psychological services, which is the next 2143 function on page 6, which I know you're missing. About a $45,000, about 10% savings there, resulting largely from some savings from other professional services that we have been able to find some cost savings on and handle internally. You see your Ceresc 2149, those are our dues, which are a little less this year. Ceresc is one of the entities that we use to help out with things such as psychological services. They provide discount and availability on consultants. When we've had to go out to the market for those consultants and budget for them, they've been exceptionally expensive for specialized services in particular. So we've been able to benefit from that membership. Speech, which is 2152, you'll see that we're a little over there in that account, again, largely due to other professional services. We've tried to save and offset, so when we've been over in those lines, probably almost 30,000, we've been able to mitigate on some of the other lines in that function to keep things relatively even. Other pupil services, you'll note 2190 in that function. We had some savings in there, and I believe that was due to higher timing, or timing of a hire that we had coming in. The next function is 2210, which you just get a peek of on that page 7, improvement of instruction, $61,000 budget, $54,000 in spend, $7,000 savings. Professional improvement, which is 2213, budget of $568,000, spend of $331,000, largely due to some savings from salaries. School library services, which is the next item that you have, which is function 2222, budget of $666,000, actual spend of $654,000, savings of $12,000. That's a pretty constant line, pretty consistent line. Savings there were in some books and library ordering, as well as some savings from our online resources. Audiovisual, which is 2223. You can see there's a little bit of a difference in the salary line. And overall budget of $15,000, spend of $11,000, save $4,000. School board salaries came in even there, $9,200. Want to make sure they get paid. School board clerk, you can see there was a little bit of a savings there, $5,000 between the clerk and supplies. $1120 was the total savings. And I'll stop there. Does everyone have page 9?
Yes.
So that's one of those school board items. We have school board salaries, school board clerk.
Yeah, that's basically the whole budget. What else is for the budget? Well, you have the travel piece, right?
Yeah, there's some training and there are some other things that go in it, but it's not an exceptionally robust
Budget.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. I think that might have been Brian's point earlier. We do have another account in there, and I'll point that out to you as we get there. Our treasurer, cost of $4,400, spend $5,600. That includes supplies. District meeting, $13,500 proposed or was budgeted, $11,769 paid, so we had a savings there of $1,731. And I'll stop there for a second. On district meeting, we talk about what is the budget committee's budget. The budget committee's budget is exceptionally thin. We don't really have a lot of expenses because stuff like district meeting, supplies, overhead is picked up by the district or by the school board. So the budget committee itself has a very small budget. We don't even really have an expense for district meeting that's shared, picked up by, however you want to classify it, by the school board. Next function, 2317, audit, $47,000 budgeted, $33,009 spend, resulting in savings approximately $13,990. Legal line, 2318.
Could you want on that line item? So right now, that's for the audit complete?
Yes.
So the completed audit came in under the budget.
Correct. Yep.
Great.
Yep. And it came over probably over where we normally would have thought to spend, but I think when this was put together, we had to figure out what that cost was going to be if someone else did it, or if we had any other regulatory audits we needed to complete. Legal fees, 2318, function 2318. Budget was 90,000, spend was 58,555, favorable 31,448. And there are a number of reasons for that. On the legal fee and legal line, it's important to look at what we have going on in a particular year and how those lines fluctuate. And I'll tell you this so that as the budget comes up, when we look at the budget in a year that we have one or two, for example, union negotiations, those take up a lot of legal resources. It turns out, it's money probably well spent based on what I've seen happen in other districts where you don't have legal involved in those negotiations. But last year was not one of those years, so the costs were a little lower than that.
Along that, also in that legal line, don't you also have, aren't there legal expenses on some special ed type things?
Yes. Yep.
And that all falls under legal?
That all falls under legal. Yeah, that all falls under legal. And special ed legal typically is, I won't get into any case in particular.
Yeah, I'm just...
But it'll involve a request or demand by us, or a request for due process by us. Parent demands residential placement for $250,000 a year. And not that we look at the cost, it's whether it's situationally appropriate. We may need to get our law firm involved to make sure that the district has its rights protected so that we can come to an agreement as to what appropriate services are, if possible.
Jeff,
Yes.
question. To your knowledge, I think the answer is probably no, but the district has never had in-house counsel.
No.
So when it comes to counsel, say if it's a right to know request and sort of you need to run it by an attorney to get an opinion, versus sort of contract negotiations, different law firms, different line items in terms of legal fees.
Not a different line item. No,
Okay.
we have one line item for all of that, including for special ed. It's not really broken out by function, so if we had a need for an administrative,
Mediation.
an employment matter, for example, on the administrative side, not on the curriculum or education side, it's all in one legal line. Other school board services, 2319, that is the other legal line, 56,000 budgeted, 60,000 spent. Those cover some salary stipends, some advertising where we need to put advertising out, especially for a warrant. Some travel and workshops to the tune of about $4,000 we spent too. Some dues, New Hampshire School Board Association related dues are paid out of that, and then miscellaneous miscellaneous expense, 22,000 budgeted, 40,000 spent. We had an overage there of 17. So the other school board services, the budget was 56, spend was 60. SAU 55 budget, that's on a page that you have, I believe, which is 1,517,000, 1,517,708 paid. 2330 for function special administrative services. You'll see that we were a bit over in that line, resulting in some shifts from maybe better classification on some of our employees. And we're doing a little bit better job, I think, making sure that we're tracking where our employees are relative to what their actual function is. So you'll see some pickups in some other lines like the 1100, 112, some favorable there, and that may be a transfer of an employee to the correct budget and cost center. 2340, which you see the function on this director of curriculum, you'll see we had some cost savings there, resulting largely from salaries. Overall function budget of just under 290,000, 164 spent, so we had 125, almost 125,000 in savings there. Office of the Principal, which is line 2410, we had we're over in some lines. We had a budget of $3,162,000. We spent $3,274,000. The difference is in the administrative salaries line for the most part of $135,000, resulting in some benefits and payouts due to retiring employees. Other services, school administration, which is function 2490. Budget of 207,000, spend of 203,000, so we had a budget favorable variance there of $4,268. Contracted services Medicaid, budget of 62, which is the function 2510, which is the top of page 13. Spend was 52, so we're favorable there, about 9,300, and that's a variable to some degree of what we are able to obtain in Medicaid aid itself. Supervisor of plant, which is function 2610. We had some costs there resulting from some salary issues, so we were overspent there, $17,010. Next function is 2620, which is the operating building services. The total budget there was $3,679,000. We spent $3,500,000, favorable variance of $178,000. You'll see that has a lot to do with fuel, a lot of our fuel lines, certain employee benefits, custodians, and the like. Care and operation of grounds, which is our function 2630, budget 135, spend 110,000, favorable 24,000. Care and upkeep of equipment, function 2640, budget 155, spend 129, favorable 25,000. Vehicle operation and maintenance, we do have some aging vehicles out there. Our budget was 81,150, spend was 85,495 on an unfavorable variance of $4,000, $4,345. 2660, which is the top of your page 15, security services. Total budget 165. The spend was 143, so we're favorable 21,000. We had some ups and we had some savings and some expenditures in that line. The net was 21 favorable. Regular program transportation, 1,972,000 was our budget. Our spend was 1,941,000, which was a savings of 31,000. Our special education transportation 2722 and 22 was a 920 budget, spend of 930, which was over budget almost 10,000. Vocational transportation budget of 70,000, spend of 73, overage there of almost 3,000. Athletic transportation had some savings, 104,000 budget, 81,000 spend. I am somewhat dubious to admit in that case, in that particular line, that I do not think that we were able to have our needs met relative to our transportation needs for athletics during that budget year. I think we've since been able to do better, but I don't think we had the availability of transportation the way that we needed it. Field trip transportation, which is 2725, budget of 34,630, actual of 29. Music transportation function 2729, we had a budget of 13,500, spent just under 12, which is favorable variance of $1,500. Computer services, which is the 2840 function, we had a budget of 481,000, spent 476 for a favorable variance of $4,845. Support services, which is our 2900 function, we had a budget of 17,386,000, spent 16,793,000 for a favorable variance of 592,746. Our site improvement, which is the 4200 line, we had a budget of 297, a spend of 316 for a budget overage of 19,328, which is offset with our next line item, which is building improvement 4,600. So we had 630 in the budget, 615 spend. We had favorable 14,000 there. Principal on debt and bond are our next items. Those are on with budget. We had some fund transfers budgeted. You'll see the effect of 4,414. The fund transfer lines 5221, 5222, and 5223 are in this report are gross, what we call gross budgeted. So we know that we're going to have expense in our food service fund. We know that we're going to have expense in our federal projects fund. We know that we're going to have expense in our performing arts fund. And we reasonably estimate, or try to reasonably estimate, what those expenses are going to be. They don't show here, this is a fund report of the 100 fund. However, when these are lines that don't typically have a tax impact, because I estimate the revenue as offsetting as well. So if I have food service fund expense of $1,625,000, I've got to capture that in our total budget. But then I also budget revenue coming in from the outside for $1,625,000, so that there is an even offset, no tax impact on any of these. Capital reserve, $250,000 was the budget on that, and we did do a transfer of $250,000 relating to the previous year. So the fund transfer was anticipated based on what we had already reserved in our fund balance. And that's it. So over the course of the year, we did relatively well. As far as this year's planning, the year upcoming, unfortunately, the only thing that I do know is that our retirement rates did come in, and they look to be about 2.5% higher. That rate is set for 2 years on our teachers, which is pretty good. So we'd had some spikes in years past. When you get that spike, it hits for a 2-year cycle. So you might get a 5% in year one, a 5% in year two, but they give you 7 in 1 year. So it's been higher in the past, as you recall.
Do you still expect to see the medical from the state in the end of October, like last year?
I have no reason to think that it would be any different at this time. So that typically comes in around that time, and as you all know, we have what's called a guaranteed maximum rate, which is a budget number. So if we budget that number, typically it won't exceed that. We're guaranteed not to exceed that in our actual premium.
Okay, good.
I have a question. So the sum of the last year, we spent 66.8.
From our operating fund, yeah. Yeah, we spent more than that when we include the effect of our food service and the PAC and our federal funds.
Just, can you give a little more description, not by what are the numbers? So we spent 66 plus food. So give me an example on the food.
Food, so our food service fund spent about we ended up with about 1.35 in expense there.
Okay. So 66 plus that, and you said the PAC was another one?
Yep. And
So
I think
the PAC is because,
well, it's that 77 that you see here. I think we spent 62.
And the federal as well.
And we have federal funds as well.
Those all get added back in.
And PAC revenue.
Right.
PAC revenue, there's food service revenue.
Correct. Yep, so food service, we spent 1.3.5, and we brought in 1.346. So you'll see a slight amount here as an offset, that 4,414 as an offset to our 100 fund. So if you take all of those, that gives you your total spend. So if you take 66,
roughly.
70
Yeah.
million, about 70 million.
could be, yeah, it's a good.
Right?
It's in that general range.
That's about right.
General.
Yeah.
I'm not looking.
Yeah, it's good to know why. I think it's good to have a discussion as to why and how, and when you spend the money, you spend it, but then if it's offset by revenue, there's no tax impact on the rest of it, so.
Okay. Anybody have questions for Jeff's short summary of 17, 18?
So,
If one question.
Sure.
So when all is said and done, it sounds like the surplus is about 2.
a little more than that,
Seven.
yeah.
A little more than 2.
2.7.
Great.
A lot of which has to do with the fact that we simply did a much better job spending our capital this year. We had less in our capital budget, spent it, and if you recall, when we have that $250,000 going to going to capital reserve, that only comes from capital surplus. So we're a lot closer on our spend there. That results in
Surplus is in the low 2 millions?
mid
2.4?
twos.
Mid 2s?
Yeah.
2.4, 2.5.
Okay, all right. All right, does anybody else have any questions?
I did.
You have questions on your own presentation?
While this is fresh to everyone,
Yes.
can I take a quick diversion and jump over real quick to your format sample?
Yes.
Yes.
Take what we just looked at and kind of put it aside, if you will.
Hold on, let me go get that document.
It's the legal side, and it was only one side to begin with, so that works out well.
So we're not missing like the even numbers?
You get the correct, you get the
It's not
correct.
blank.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got that document.
All right. So when we look at these columns, currently, because it was from the current year when we had talked about it, it's showing 19 requested. So that now would read 20 requested. Okay. That 19 voted now, 18 voted is now going to be 19 voted.
Correct.
If you see that there's a difference column, that would be, if it's okay with everyone here, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. That's going to be the difference between the requested and the voted. 17 budget will be 18 budget, or 18 voted budget, right?
Right.
That's what you want. 17 expense will now be 18 expense. We have a difference column, a difference category there. And in terms of shifting it around, just remember that column. Next one's 16 budget, 16 expense.
Hold on, wouldn't that be the difference of 18?
Well, are we going to need the column, though? And I'll tell you why in a second. You tell me which column you want. If we go on to the next one, it's 16 budget to 16 spend,
Which would be 17?
Should be 17,
which would be 17.
okay?
Then I have
Difference.
a difference column there. But with the idea here be for me to do 16 budget, 16 spend,
So just, with no difference.
with no difference.
Yeah.
So the difference columns that I'm going to have are going to be from the requested for the 20 to the 19 voted.
Yeah.
And then I'll have a difference on the 18 budget or 18 voted to the expense.
Expense.
But then 17 budget will be compared to 17 expense. I won't have room for that expense column. I think that was the consensus of the board at the time. We like the difference columns, but we also like the data. We'd rather have the data
Yeah.
And do the math on our own.
if you have to. So that's what it will look like then. And in going through this, I said, let me make sure I'm picking up I'm eliminating the right difference column.
Everybody crystal clear?
Yep.
No problem?
There is mine.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think we got a little bit sidetracked previously when you presented these
roll-up.
reports and you came out with like new headings. And we
curveball.
spent 2 meetings discussing these other ones, so.
So I did come up with the new headings because we did have some questions on it last year. And I think that the consensus was, hey, if it's a roll forward, label it as a roll forward. If it's voted, label it as voted. Fine. So I did that. On an up note, because encumbrances were such a fun topic last year, and they were higher last year, I did do what I could do to have those expenses recognized as accounts payable this year. So I did not encumber. If I had a way to make it force it into our accounts payable, I did. When I put it into accounts payable, that creates a liability, but that also hits the expense, right? So the encumbrance doesn't really hit the expense line the same way. But essentially, what I was able to do was I've reduced the encumbrances as much as I can because I hear that we like to see the actual spend, and the way to see the actual spend is if I can get it into accounts payable. That simply means, to your point earlier, the expense was incurred in a previous year. You have a bill for it. Instead of encumbering it as we may have done in years past, just put it into accounts payable, record the expense, and then we have a much better picture as to what the actual spend looks like because we have much less to encumber going forward. So I've tried to do that. Still waiting for the blessing from audit, but to the extent that I did hear that last year, so encumbrances are messy. I hit fund balance. I don't hit the expense line for all of those encumbrances. So if I encumber 100,000 from our 4,200 sites account, I don't charge the sites account. Governmental GASB accounting suggests that I just
Put it in.
reserve it from our fund balance. Then the next year I increase the budget for that line the next year. It's from an accounting perspective, it's a little bit more difficult to do the way that I've done it, but I heard that we'd like to see as much actual reported expense as possible. Got it.
I want to grab the floor.
Please.
So if we're good on the 17-18 budget, I want to move to the parking lot. And on the parking lot, we're coming up on facility tours. So with that being said, I actually spoke to School Board Chair Sue Sherman, talked to her about dates, saying that we don't have them on Thursdays, and she just said, you go pick them. So Jeff and I believe Tom have some proposed dates that work with their side. And so let's hear what you got.
So Tom, if you have a list of those dates, what we've done is, again, we've heard the committee that we didn't want it interfering with our Thursdays, and that means that it can't interfere with any Thursday because school board's the offsetting night. We've scheduled the tours earlier in the day, and Tom, I think you have a tentative list of what those proposed dates are going to be.
I do have a tentative list, I'm just pulling it up now. I won't be able to do minutes while I speak.
You may want to point up your microphone.
All right, just give me one moment.
Let's see if we can get them up faster.
How early are we talking in the day?
4?
We were looking for 4 PM start time.
So let's just go on, before he even comes up with the dates. Would 4 PM work for people?
Well, how many people are interested in the?
Yeah, so start by saying, who would go?
Depending on the day,
Depends on
I
the
could
day.
do it.
No, let's back up. Who would go if it fit in their time schedule?
Looks like you got a full house.
Okay, so, let me back up. And so you're talking around the 4 o'clock timeframe?
4 o'clock time frame, but then Mr. Dowd and I discussed if anybody wants to make an appointment, we'll accommodate tours.
So before you even come up with the
Accommodate anybody's
dates,
schedule.
I'm just gonna, can you make 4 o'clock?
Depending on the day, yes.
Okay, can you make 4 o'clock?
Yes.
Julie,
Depends on the day.
got it?
Yes. Depends on the day.
Okay, let's see what kind of days you got.
All right.
Yeah, I've got it.
We know it's not a Thursday.
Everybody's favorite day of the week.
Monday?
Monday. We have Monday, October 1st, 4 PM, tentatively for beginning at the middle school, moving on to the Performing Arts Center, finishing up at the high school. Skip ahead 2 weeks because of the Columbus Day holiday.
That was October 1st, middle
Yep.
school.
Monday, October 15th, 4 PM, we would hit the Pollard Elementary School and the Atkinson Academy Elementary School.
Okay,
We originally had October 22nd. It did not work for Sandown North. So we pushed that out to Monday, October 29th, 4 PM, beginning at Sandown North,
hold on, Monday, October
29th?
29th,
29, okay?
beginning at Sandown North,
Mhm.
then going to Sandown Central,
Mhm.
finishing up at Danville Elementary.
So we're gonna go from, no, never mind, okay, got it,
North
got it.
Central than Danville.
Can you send that to me?
What's that?
Can you send that to me?
Yeah, and once, I'm going to put it in front of Mrs. Belcher, who will make that a public announcement, because people from the public tend to, last year we had quite a few people that attended from the
few.
public.
A couple.
And no school.
They-
some
quite a
school
few in
board
aggregate.
didn't
No
want
school
I'd
coming
say
to a
quite
budget
a few,
people.
yes.
In aggregate, but only a few outside of the.
All right, so these 3 dates you gave us, October 1, October 15th, and October 29, they're all 4 PM.
All beginning at 4 PM,
Right.
correct?
So, now that everybody said depending on the day, how does this fit into your days?
Mondays I typically work from home, so I don't see that as
Bravo.
being an issue unless,
How about Todd?
Every one of them works for me.
Good. Julie?
I'm an assistant soccer coach for my son's soccer team, and our practices are Mondays.
Okay. Nothing. David, you said, Peter, Brian?
I'm there.
Probably okay. I gotta check my work schedule.
Okay,
2 of the 3 work.
good. So we've got a majority. We don't hit everybody. So how about if I tell them to go forward and publish these and we do the best we can?
Yeah, and
So-
like I said, please reach out if anybody wants to do a building tour outside of the group.
Right.
We're happy to accommodate.
And so here's what I want to focus on, because I've noticed in the years past, we haven't used our time the most efficiently during the tour. So I'm going to be pushing for it, and I'm going to look for your support, Mr. Geary and Jeff, is when we go there, stick to what we're there for. Get the tour, listen to the presenters, knock off the side conversations. I hate to say it, but if I have to, I'll be the facility police officer there. Leave them out, and we can get through this thing much faster. I think you're scheduling about 30 minutes per building?
That's
that
what I
about right?
That's what I anticipate. I think if we plan ahead, talk to the principals, we'll take you directly, make it pointed and
Okay.
worthwhile.
And so the goal is, you're going to be going over the needs, more so that you know about versus, I'll say wish list type items. wish list meaning, you know, if I had $1 million. All right, so those dates will go forward. Kathy will publish them.
Unless you know, I, no room involved, I can't see that there'd be something going on at the school that the principals wouldn't already know about, so I would say it's more
Okay.
likely no, those will be the dates.
That's the dates we'll expect, Phil.
Only thing I would flag, and it may seem silly to some, but I have no idea what day trick-or-treating falls
Yeah, I was
on.
just gonna ask you, because
So October 29th, you know, it
Well, in our
never
town,
seems,
it's on
oddly enough,
Halloween.
it never seems to fall on Halloween, at least here in
Kathy
Atkinson.
Belcher would pick that out in a heartbeat.
Okay, just
But-
wanted to flag it.
Just flag that one, how's that?
Be a problem.
Put a Halloween,
We'll make a note to check with the trick-or-treat schedule.
Would be the
The
22nd.
towns are often different too, they stagger. We could do the tour in costume too.
That's right.
all right, so that is,
But
the,
it's done early enough. It'll be done before trick or treating is done, so.
all right, that's all I had for the parking lot, for the dates, I'm glad you got them. Under new business is the review, of revenue and expenditures for the July 2018 and August 2018. So these are in your packet. They are now up on the web, in case anybody wants to go take a peek at them. They're 9 pages. This is the way we agreed upon them at the last meeting, is we can go look at them at our own, at home. If you have any questions, bring them forward. But as a board, we're not gonna sit here and go line by line through them. So it'll be on every agenda to say, hey, listen, these are the revenue and expenditures for these months. So it is in front of us. Bring your questions here. But at my point, we're not going to go through them.
Right now.
These copies got screwed up too,
No, sir. Really?
but differently.
No way.
Yeah, backwards.
We got two, we got
Yes,
those
but-
3.
1, 2, and then it goes to 4.
So Jeff, can we just do this? Can
Both of
we reload up to SharePoint? a
They're right in the
Saving money.
packet.
They're right in
correct
SharePoint.
in
They're right
the
online,
packet.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's just when you press
it's
print.
just
And
how
that
they were
last-
printed.
Yeah.
And that last one, Kathy and I were following along.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how we're gonna handle those revenue and expenditures. So does anybody have questions on that?
No.
On the actual reports, correct? Yes, I do.
No,
Have
in fact, I did run August, and it is, the August one I think is correct. I ran that one myself. So we have all the pages for August.
All right, so Kathy, tell us which one you're going after so we can follow along.
So I guess this is August. I had a question regarding, it's on page 5. It is printed, so you can see it if you have the copy in front of you. I have a question regarding, function 2317, which is the audit. There is $60,000 encumbered, putting us in a negative for, come July, or August. So I'm curious, what is going into that 60,000? So we budgeted 47, which is high in general. It's higher than it has been. It's higher compared to other schools by about 100%. So I'm curious what the 60,000 encumbered is.
We have, we've estimated what we estimate to be the cost for the audit reasonably into the next year. And we also have, I believe this is going to be the year that we have a certain report that we do for our OPEB, for our other post-employment benefits retirements. And this would be in the cycle of that happens. That goes out to an actuary every year to measure our long-term liabilities in that regard. And so I've allocated for that in that account as well. I've put some in there for our budget purposes. When the school board's looking at the budget, if they need to do a rework or redo on the budget, that's where that number would probably be.
Are you able to say, of the OPEB analysis, approximately what percentage of that it is?
Or dollar value?
It could be the 10 to 13. It could be higher, depending on what they're going to be looking at. I don't know, until we get there, what new requirements there may be, looking out almost a year from now.
Yeah.
Or more. So the actuaries have their fun.
And is there a reason why the audit's going to be so high when the base is 25,000. And then I know it goes up from there if they have to keep coming back in. However, 47 seems pretty high, and again, I look at other districts and it's double what other districts have been just last year alone, and they're larger districts than we are.
So is your question on the 47? The 47 is part of the default budget.
The 47, yeah. Are you expecting,
That's what it was, that's how the default works. School board set the default, this is what was voted.
no, I'm asking you, is that what it, so did we expend, I guess I should look at the budget. Did we expend 47,000 last year?
We did,
It was 33.
33, that's what I thought I saw. Okay.
Brian, you had a question?
That was
Oh.
a follow-up to that, because
Yeah.
if we spent like 33 last year, and from what you and Colby, from what I understand, we're gonna be theoretically even in better shape, sooner and better shape for this year.
So
Correct.
it's 33
So-
plus about 10 for the other,
Mhm.
then we're not looking at a 60,000. We're looking at probably spending what's budgeted. We're not in a negative.
maybe, maybe not. I've put out there what would be, what our total exposure could be. You know, if it's not reasonable, then you don't want, you don't feel that that's an appropriate number, then put a number in there. There's been talk about switching audit firms as well. That comes with some expense.
Yeah, but
We don't spend it, we don't spend it.
Okay. I did have another question.
Do you mind if I piggyback on the auditing
Yeah,
firm, if you don't mind?
certainly, go ahead.
I'm not trying to rehash old conversations, but I don't know the answer to this question. How many years have we had the current auditing firm? When was the last time it?
A long time. I don't, and I don't know that the former business administrator knew the answer to that, so I can't have the answer to that.
over 10, definitely.
Because he had been here, yeah, he'd been here 10.
Wow.
Oh,
Did you just a question.
sure.
You mentioned that this year you expect a less frequent an additional report that doesn't happen every year.
Correct.
Is that incorporated into this encumbrance?
Yes.
Okay, so even though we might be spending, 33, if we stay flat, we're gonna have that extra expense for that extra report that we don't do every year.
Correct.
So that needs to be factored into that encumbrance.
I think he said that though, but didn't you say that was around 10? I'm sorry, but about 10,000?
Could be, and if the depth of what they're required to look for at the time is higher based on the
Yeah.
actuarial requirements.
Did you have another question?
We don't have yes, I do. So there was an invoice, from the, 9/6, voucher detail listing. And it's for $12,000 for fleece consulting as agreed upon in the attached signed proposal and amendment. And I'm curious, because typically we pay based on invoice for fleece, or FLES, whatever you want to call it. So I'm curious, what is that 12,000, and just maybe in general, can contracts be posted? So we can I wouldn't even have to ask you if we have the contracts available, but that's what it states clearly, is it's according to a signed proposal and amendment, which means the contract's been amended. Maybe Brian, because you would have amended that contract. The school board would have amended that contract
The contract on,
for Ceresk for FLES or fleece, whatever you want to call it.
I don't think we touched that.
It states here, agreed upon in the attached signed proposal and amendment.
Where is that here?
So you're saying it states here, states where?
In the voucher list, the voucher detail listing.
Do we have a copy of this?
It's on the website. It's on our,
No, here, do we have a copy?
oh, no, I'm sorry,
So
no.
we extended Celeste, is that what you're saying? We extended this year's Celeste, is that,
Yeah, it's saying that per the agreement, we paid them 12,000. I thought we were being billed by them based on invoices on work done. That's more than 20% of what we would be paying out for the year. So I'm just curious, why are we paying them 12,000 when we haven't done that in the past?
Are we in other business?
No, we are in asking questions about the review and expenditure of the August.
I thought we were
Oh, you're in August.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Because
September,
individual
I can
vouchers
ask
that we
next
don't have
week.
access to immediately
Oh, I see.
is
Oh,
not,
no, I see what you're saying.
so if we're going into other business, then that's cool.
I'm sorry, but this is the expenditure. This is the expense report that is posted to our
For
site.
August.
Yes. Well, no, sorry, this is September, but I go through all of them. So I just had a question. So we can only cover exactly we have,
But we don't have the information in front of us.
okay.
So when September comes, can we maybe address it at either the next meeting or down the road.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't want to,
I would think that it's been approved by the school board and it's been paid, so I just figured someone would have the answer.
Mr. Boyle, do you have the answer?
I don't have the answer, but my feeling is when we're billed by organizations like Ceres, it's usually for services provided.
Right.
I don't know exactly what was provided, and I would think it was done. But I do have a question about the, to piggyback this encumbrance thing about the audit. So you've encumbered 60,000, is that what it is? Got it?
Encumbered, 40. Yes, so 60 is encumbered, yes. And then 20,000 rolled forward from last year.
Okay, because if we spent 33 last year, even if it was 35, and another 10 to 15 for this extra work, it seems to me like we should be at 45 to 47 versus 60. So when you encumbered 60, that was just your guesstimate? Is that what
The roll forward, the amount, this is what I was talking about earlier. The
Yeah.
purchase order rolled forward from last year for the 20, which is in there. And if we paid 33 for the audit, approximately 40 was set aside for audit work. So
Okay.
you put the two of them together, and that's a 60.
I'm confused.
So you estimated
I'm
like 20
confused.
for the other report.
I'm real.
20 is from an encumbrance from last year. 20 is the amount that was encumbered from last year.
You encumbered money from last year, but I thought the actual expense of the audit was 33,000. I thought that's what that's what you said.
Yes.
So if we actually expended 33,000
Yes.
to do last year's audit,
Yep.
you get the same firm,
Yep.
and we're gonna be doing this year's audit, and you're looking for some kind of actual report that you estimate is 10.
Could be 10, hopefully.
Call
less.
12. So
Yeah.
if you go 33 and 12, I'm at 45. How do I get to 60?
We rolled forward the 20,000 in that account from last year.
So,
So the audit was 33 plus 20?
Correct. Well, no, we have a consultant that we encumbered for 20
Plus the audit.
last year, which rolled forward to this year, plus the audit. So if we were looking at,
Consultant is an addition to the audit.
Correct.
to the audit,
Okay, so Colby's the consultant we're talking about.
Correct.
But Colby will not be part of the audit.
correct.
So if the firm, for Colby aside, if the auditing firm got 33,000, and then we need additional work this year for 10 to 12,000,
I'm hoping this can be in the $7,000 range, and I'm hoping that we might be able to do better.
that's even, but I'm going the other way. You're saying 10, I'm saying go 12. 33 and 12 is 45.
Correct.
Okay, so why are we, so you're going backwards to the 60, so you're referring to the 18 as 60 is what you're encumbering versus 19?
We had 33.
I'm confusing with my years here, too.
We had 33 that was paid
Yes.
last year.
Yes.
We encumbered an additional 20 in that account that wasn't paid, and that rolls forward.
Maybe that's the 20
Hey,
that's over
this
this year.
Okay.
That's what's gonna be
Right.
paid this year.
And this is what I was referring to earlier when I said that we rolled the budget forward, because then the 20 for the budget would have rolled forward. Our budget would look like 67,
So
but
you
the
were
total might
spending.
only
But the Colby
We already
money,
budgeted
the
for
Colby money's coming out of last year's money.
It's coming out of last year's money.
So now,
Correct.
but that's why we roll the budget forward this year,
Okay.
because we pay it this year, we pay it out of that account,
Okay.
but it's reserved from our fund balance. So then
Yep.
it comes out of our fund balance, goes to the expense this year.
All right, let me just, Kathy's good.
Right. That's confusing. Why can't we just keep that in?
Kathy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because there wasn't 20,000 remaining in the audit line to encumber, number
Okay.
one. And two, and I'm waiting for the information, I did a right-to-know request. The contract is dated July 25th, for July 1st through June 30th. So we can't encumber funds unless there's a legally binding document such as a contract. So what bound us to being able to encumber those funds?
Can you help me understand what legally binding by a contract? Where is it? Where's the source for that?
32.7 RSA budget law.
Can you tell me what it says? Because the
You
board,
can, okay,
the
sorry.
board voted to make the encumbrance and to create the obligation last year.
No, you
The
can't
school board,
encumber,
yes.
yes, the
Which they have
school
the right
board
to do.
can say, they can say, you can make a commitment and encumber those funds.
Correct.
But you can't just encumber funds because the school board says you can't. That's not a legally binding document. So.
Does it say legally binding document?
It does.
It says
Like-
legally binding document.
Yes, it does.
While she's going to, Brian, can you shed any light on what the school board did on this topic?
Okay. Yes, the school board, out of last year's money, authorized the business manager to
17, 18.
correct for the
Yep.
year that just ended June 30th, to spend up to $20,000 for this task. I believe, I did not look at the law that Kathy's looking at, but my research tells me if there was a internal documentation such as an internal work order at Timberlane that would cover the legal basis to encumber the money. And I asked that to Jeff at the last school board meeting, that, yes, it's cleaner, obviously, if all of a sudden you picked up the phone and called up Mr. Colby and said, could you get down here in the next 3 days or before July 1st and sign a letter of engagement?
Right.
Okay, well, without that, from what I understand, if we have, it's all about documentation, and it's the type of thing that, that would be subject to your auditor. So if your auditor comes in and says,
The auditor was here. The only time that'll ever happen, Brian.
no, actually, no, I understand, but if the auditor comes in, that would be that would show up, I would think, on your report as an unallowable,
If it weren't allowed.
if that firm came in and said that. But I believe if you have some sort of documentation, that's what I think we talked about at the last school board meeting internally.
Yep.
I'm not a CPA.
So
and
just
I'm not-
shortcut it. Do we have internal documentation?
I haven't seen it, but I was told we do.
Okay.
I haven't
So
personally seen it.
so just encumbered by a legally enforceable obligation created by a contract or otherwise. That is how you can, that's the only way you're allowed to encumber
Or
So
lapse
Kathy,
of
is the magic word
appropriation.
here or otherwise?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
otherwise, it's kind of
saying.
vague.
What else?
All right, so look at, so I guess
Another
we don't have a
term.
definitive answer for
Legally-
Brian on the school board. We may have some of these documents, so do we want to beat this up right now?
Is there a legal opinion on,
It's not, yeah, it's not up to the auditor. It's legally binding.
Assume
The
it's been
auditor
run
is
by
not a
somebody.
lawyer, so.
I assume it's been run by,
Of course it is.
or legal, yeah, okay, so.
So what did our-
I
what did our-
disagree. I think I'd be feeling a lot stronger about what the CPA says versus Jim O'Shaughnessy.
Oh, I
didn't
didn't
say
say,
from by
I didn't
legal.
say him, and
Yeah.
I know you read the contract and it's.
I would think
it's-
I would think
No
you're,
one,
but,
no legal
Go ahead.
person looked at it.
Unless there's going to be a proposal on the table to sue the school board, I'm not quite sure where this is going.
Yeah,
yeah.
so, look at this, I'm under the same thing. We're not
not
misappropriating
proposing
funds.
I think
We're going to use them for a specific purpose. I know you've got the RSA in front of you, And it's got that wiggle word.
It does say other, I mean, so basically it
Or-
encompasses a lot of
right.
things.
Well, that's legally binding.
Or other,
And a handshake in some environments is legally binding. I just,
I think it needs to be
this,
documented.
this is common
This is
practice.
not a
It doesn't mean
gentleman's-
it's best practice.
so
but it's
where
common
would you
practice.
like this to go, is
No,
my
I'm
question.
just asking what, I mean, for us, we're being told things are being encumbered, and we have a school board rep here that doesn't even know what allowed them to do that. And my
That's
concern.
not what I
Let's not
said.
attack
Whoa.
other people here.
I
That's-
strongly,
Yeah, really.
that's not what I
Okay,
said.
sorry.
That's very unfair.
I said that the board actually directed this to happen, and then me personally, I was very comfortable with I believe there is documentation to do what he did.
Okay, so I did a right to know to request that, and the contract is
Okay.
not, that is in existence right now, does not allow us to encumber those funds. So I'm curious what allowed us to encumber those
Let me back up.
funds.
If the purchase order did take place before the end of the year, would you be happy?
I would have to look at it,
Yes or
we'd
no?
have to see.
If the purchase order was made before the end of the fiscal year, would that satisfy your,
Right to know,
your information on all this?
I would have to see the purchase
No,
order.
no, no. If I have it right here, and it's dated before the end of the year,
the end of the 30th.
would
June
it
30th.
satisfy your quest into this? Yes, yes, or no?
No.
So I'm not sure how we can satisfy it, but, all right.
Do you
Anybody
have the
second?
purchase order?
Would you be satisfied if I had the purchase order dated before the end of the year? Yes or no?
No.
Then I'm not sure I understand.
How would you
how
be,
we-
how would you be
Yeah, how
satisfied
would
if you
you
didn't have
be
something?
I
that was
think because you can't just create a purchase order and say, there's my legally binding document.
Isn't that a binding
Because it
document?
has to be, no, it has to be agreed to.
Administrative.
Isn't a purchase order a contract?
No, not unless you,
Not necessarily,
but that's No.
okay. I don't think you need that contract.
All right. I'm not sure I can
And
I can give you the answer that's going to satisfy you.
the documentation that I requested will determine whether or not it should have been encumbered.
Okay.
And you'll make that determination for us.
Yes, I will, Jeff.
It's very kind of you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Excellent.
Let me, so we're on the topic of July and August revenue expenditures. Are there other questions? Mr. Beela?
Motion to adjourn.
Well, no, let me finish.
we have future agenda dates, are we?
Let me finish over here. Other
list of
business.
dates.
Dave, do we have any other business? Okay. Well, the only part I'm gonna say before we adjourn is, I just wanna put out our safety concerns. There's a disaster going on out there.
I know, Jesus.
And so I'm guessing we have all of our first responders from the 4 towns out there, along with one of our own board members, so just wish and pray for the safe return of everybody.
Certainly,
So
agree.
that's all I really have. If nobody has other business, Mr. Bealow, what were you saying?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, okay.
Well said.
Here, did you get that? Bealow to